guys, welcome to Monitoring and Evaluation Made Simple. I'm your host, Coach Alexander. I'm so glad that you've joined me on this YouTube channel. If you haven't yet subscribed to this, please do subscribe, because every day, every now and then, I'm posting the latest updates on monitoring and evaluation. Today we'll be looking at a very interesting course, a short tutorial, and it's called 7 Steps on How to Organize a Monitoring and Evaluation Workshop. Okay, so this is what this short video is all about. Actually, it's not really short, but it's a reasonable time, just like all the other videos I do. So as usual, I have these 2 very important books I'm always giving away for free. You simply have to download them in the link below. It's in the description. The first one is Logical Framework Analysis, a step-by-step guide. Then we have the Monitoring and Evaluation Beginner's Guide 2020. Please download these ebooks. They are very important for your career growth as an M&E professional. If you're not an M&E professional, it could be at practicing project management somewhere. Please download these ebooks. So as usual, this video is it's a reasonable length, but you shouldn't lose heart, because there are timestamps in the description below. If you don't want to watch the full length of this video, simply click the timestamps and it will take you to the part of this video that you want to watch. Okay guys, so let's get started, shall we? 7 steps on how to organize a monitoring and evaluation workshop. So now the thing is that in all these years I've been doing M&E, in all these 10 years guys, there's one thing that I was regularly attending and also facilitating, and these are the M&E workshops. Now, M&E workshops, as you see in the coming slides, are very important. Every organization does it at least 2 or 3 times during the project cycle. So let me just define to you what these workshops are. Well, it's a sitting, okay? I like to think of it as a sitting where you sit down, you discuss certain issues related to a subject matter to do with the M&E. It could be the M&E framework, the M&E plan. You're simply sitting down as an organization, and even relevant stakeholders are seated down to fully understand what the M&E system is like, how is it implemented. But it is also used as a means to build capacity, because as you may be well aware, not everybody is well versed in monitoring and evaluation in an organization. So in order to have this system running, you need to have at least 90% of the staff who are part of this system capacity built. And to do this, you have to have a workshop, you have to have a training. And these trainings are not usually one-day trainings. Of course, you can compress things if you want, but in my experience, it doesn't take 1 day. It may even go up to 5 days. Others who are so ambitious can have it done for 2 weeks, 2 weeks training. So it's quite an important activity. Money is put into it, and I'm going to tell you which part of the occasion, why there's so much money sometimes put in this activity. I'll share with you in the coming slides. So why is having an M&E capacity building workshop important? So like I earlier mentioned guys, not everybody is at the same level, all right? And even though you walk into an organization, you ask somebody, what is monitoring and evaluation? They'll tell you, they'll explain to you that no, monitoring and evaluation is this and that, because I think in most of these NGOs especially, maybe not the business world or other sectors, but especially in the non-governmental humanitarian world, many understand basics of what monitoring and evaluation is. But when it comes to implementation, guys, I can tell you it's a huge problem. And you'll be surprised that the people that have employed M&E specialists, okay, the employers, the managers, the directors who employ these staff to manage their projects, they'll feel that they know M&E, okay? Because they can define it, and then they feel that, okay, we understand the logical framework. But to tell you the truth, from my experience, they may know the definitions, but they don't really know how it works, how implementation is done. And it is during these capacity building workshops that you come to realize that you're not really at the same level. That is why, even as a professional, if you recommend something to your boss that is monitoring and evaluation related, you have the expertise, but your boss may shoot it down because he does not have that understanding, but he thinks he knows, and that's where the problem comes in. So usually these capacity building workshops are so important because it irons out everything and it puts everyone at the same level in terms of understanding. So it's so good when you have these things, and it's even better when you have management present because they're the ones who make the decisions. So if you tell them in these meetings that the money you require to run this system, you need this certain amount of money, it's easy to justify it even during these forums. Okay. So anyway, sometimes when I talk and talk a lot. Okay, so I'm sorry about that, but I'm trying to get you to understand what is really involved in these things. So now there are 7 steps on how to organize an M&D workshop. Okay, I know workshops. Okay, workshops, regardless of whether they are monitoring and evaluation workshops or any other workshop, it's still the same procedure. But the thing is that you really need to pay attention when you're actually organizing an M&D workshop. So I'm going to show you why it's important to pay attention to some key components of the steps. And this is the most important component. The first one is this. Okay, I've listed all of them down. Okay, but I think it's more interesting if we just go slide by slide. So the first one is that you need to assess the capacity needs of an organization. So important, guys. So important. When you're assessing the capacity of an organization, you have to be in touch with what is really on the ground. Because you're not going to organize a workshop that is worth $10,000, for example, and then you invite everybody there, and then you're just simply lecturing to them about M&E. One, they're going to be bored. Two, they're going to think there's nothing new they are learning. So the thing is that if you're going to do a training, a capacity building, and you notice that the level of understanding of monitoring and evaluation is at a certain high level, then you're not going to spend most of your time talking about the basics of monitoring and evaluation during your workshop. You have to assess their capacity and you have to tailor make your training to their capacity. What are the gaps? That is the question. So the best way to do this assessment is to individually schedule, especially with management approval, schedule an activity whereby you go to each staff member and talk and ask them certain questions. All right. You won't go to a staff member and ask what is monitoring and evaluation, because that is really basic, guys. Everybody knows what M&E is today. But the thing is that you need to be tactful. You need to find out certain things that will give you an indication that they understand this, but they don't understand that. Okay. You can ask them, what gaps do you think are present in this current system? Okay. They'll tell you. And based on what they tell you, you assess that, okay, this is probably a gap which needs to be talked about during the training. So this assessment can be done within a few days, depending on how big the organization is. One of the things I do personally is check the quality of the data that is being collected, analyzed, reported on. Check the quality of that information. Has it been meeting the expectations of how a running system should be? Then when you see that as a weakness, that's an area where people need to be trained. Okay, so after you've assessed the capacities, now is the time to establish the goals and objectives of the capacity building workshop. So what this entails is that you personally, you're going to sit down and ask yourself, in order to make this workshop more fulfilling, more exciting, you have to clearly define. And when you define these objectives, you need to communicate these objectives to your participants. So, what this means is that you should explain to them that, okay, the objectives of this workshop is for you guys to be much more conversant with the process of data collection, analysis, and report writing. Because, for instance, when it comes to report writing, you'll be surprised that people are not so good at reporting. So, what is it that you want these people to know when it comes to report writing? There's something I should also mention to you, friend. When it comes to workshops, and maybe this is something which I explain in some of my trainings that I have somewhere on Udemy. If you have time, please access those trainings. Don't make your workshop boring. Don't be so boring, And the best way to be boring, and I'm telling you guys, the best way to be boring is by talking all the time. You know, a workshop is not for you to give lectures. You have to be, having dialogue with your participants, having discussions. That is a workshop. There should be activities taking place. Okay? Put together a budget. Remember, I talked about this? Yes, you have to have a budget. So now, interestingly, in my experience, some people they'll employ M&D officers, but they wouldn't want those officers to handle any M&D budget. The truth of the matter is that every project must have a budget dedicated to monitoring and evaluation. And in this budget, part of this budget includes the workshops. So now, if you are given a budget of $10,000, all right, I'm just giving a budget. That is not the ideal budget, actually. It could be lower, it could be more, but it's just an example. You have to factor in different things. Take, for instance, if this capacity building is going to be held out of town, and I think it's better if it's held out of town, because normally what happens is that workshops that are held in the city, you know what happens, guys? You find that because it's in the city and many of the staff's members live in the city, you find that they'll be sneaking out of the workshop, coming back, sneaking out to do their errands, coming back, things like that. And then you won't have everyone all on board. So if you're going to have it outside the city, that's a good idea. All right. But of course, you can make sure that wherever you go, it is cost effective. So now, depending on the policy of an organization, you might need to get 3 quotations. But that shouldn't bother you, because whatever the case, if you're doing these activities within the budget, work with what you have. Don't try to overshoot. Also, make sure that in your budget you factored in all these things to do with accommodation, daily subsistence allowances, and things like that. Stationery, internet, if there's need for internet, All those things should be factored in. Then another thing that should come out of this budget, if you're going to hire a consultant to come and facilitate this workshop, then it should come out of this budget. So I know when people hear the word consultant, automatically they are put off because they are usually costly, and that's understandable. But usually, if you have capacity in-house, if you're like the M&E guru of that organization, there may not be need to have a consultant, but it's always good to have somebody during the workshop that has some kind of independent perspective of everything. Okay, so I still feel that you can have somebody independent still come in just to chip in a bit without actually having to undo what you've already started. Okay, so make sure that your budget is clearly defined and you need to justify why certain things, certain costings are the way they are. Select a date and location, very important, guys. And even though you look at this, you may be saying to yourself, oh, we already know this. Come on, Coach Alexander, we already know this. But I can tell you guys, I've seen situations where somebody is sending you the date and location a day before the actual event. Now, I'm telling you, if that's the way people do things, participation levels will not be 100% good. So, why this is important, you need to pay attention to this, is that it's usually good if you send this date and location maybe a month before, 2 months before the actual event, because it gives people time to prepare. And if you want to have your management, especially the management people, part of this meeting, you have to give them prior notice because they would also want to be there. But you can imagine if they can't attend it because they have other schedules aligned, you know, it's so difficult and you lose out a lot because you really need management buy-in. So it's good to have them on this in this important occasion. Prepare the training materials. So important, guys. Prepare the training materials. And if you're the one doing the workshop, you have to realize that everybody is looking up to you. Do your research. There is this thing, sometimes you find that because you work with these people, they'll think that, we work with him. How can he be teaching us things we already we already know? It could be you're probably younger than some of these people. You're younger than the manager, and the manager may be saying to him or herself, how can he be teaching me things when I'm the manager and I'm experienced than him? So that is why it's important that you need to do some advanced preparation. So your training materials should be well organized, should be well researched. You should have the facts at your fingertips. All right. So that even if you are criticized, the criticism is constructive, you're able to engage your participants in a constructive manner, and you see the results will be overwhelming. So put those training materials together. So if you have M&E training materials, put them together. If you need help on this, guys, just write to me. I'm going to be able to help you. I have my email in the description below. Invite guest speakers, consultants where possible. I talked about this. All right. So find time to do your research. If there are people that can give you additional support, they won't be undoing what you've already done, but they'll just be giving you that additional support. Please, maybe if the budget can allow, include them. Lastly, undertake the workshop and get feedback. So at the end of your workshop, at the end of your training, your capacity building, Have a questionnaire distributed to all the people in the all the participants get their views on how the workshop was, so that this feedback, even if it's bad, whether it's bad or good, it's going to help you understand your possible challenges in future when it comes to implementing the M&E system, because you want the system to work. So this capacity building workshop was mainly there to bridge that gap. But if there are still people who are behind, you'll be able to know that these are the anticipated challenges I may face, and these are the people I may need to work with to solve this challenge. Okay, so those were the 7 steps, guys. I sure hope you derived the maximum benefit. I have this course which is running on Udemy called Key Performance Indicators in Project Management. It's not the only course I'm running, but there are many others. Please write to me if you have any interest in enrolling in these courses. Okay, and one last thing, stay safe. There's the COVID-19 pandemic, so please always sanitize, keep that distance, and stay at home. I've been your host, Coach Alexander. Until we meet again, see you on the other side. Bye.